What's going on, everyone? Welcome back for another week of the Final Points. I'm joined by Mr. Matt Gannon. Matt, solid week last week all around.
Charles Schwab, let's go.
Let's do it again.
Hyped.
I don't see why we wouldn't.
I don't see why we wouldn't want to make more money.
Exactly. And I was at the casino earlier, just last second decision, turned onto the highway from work. Thought I'd look at the books and see what numbers they have down there, if they're any different than what's offered. Sat down at a slot machine, hit $600. So I got some money to blow. I need you to talk me into some of these guys because I got some money that
you're spending it all. You're spending it all on the Charles Schwab because what else would you do with it?
Exactly. It's free money anyways from a slot machine. I wasn't supposed to win that.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, where was the slot machine? Where yeah, the casino at home?
Yeah, casino at home, Gun Lake in Michigan. So before I hit that, though, threw a decent chunk on CT Pan top 40. So we'll get to that. And they had a decent number on Minwoo Lee. So I took his each way for minimum bet.
Okay.
Shooting for the moon, but either way. Yeah. I got some money to blow. We got the final points. We always talk each other into stuff. We'll do our side bet at the end of the show. It's my week to pick what goes on here, so I got a little bit of a change up. So we'll get to that towards the end of the show. But back to the event, Charles Schwab Challenge. So Colonial, finally a course that we've seen consistently over the past, I don't even know how many years. I just know it's like never ending. They've played at Colonial, so a lot of course history.
I think stuff. Like 75 years.
I
think I heard something like that.
Before our time, we'll say that. Before our time. But past winners, looking at the last 5 years, Kokrak won last year at 14 under. Daniel Berger, when the schedule got changed up after the COVID break, he won at 15 under in a playoff over Morikawa. Kevin Na, 2019 at 13 under. Rose won in 2018 at 20 under. And Kevin Kisner, 2017 at 10 under. So by no means is this a birdie fest. Tighter fairways, smaller greens. So somewhat similar to last week. Same designer of the course, which makes sense. Most greens are surrounded by bunkers. It's just not as long as last week. It's not as difficult of greens. I mean, I am kind of baking in strokes gained off the tee a lot more than I did last week. In terms of everything, like strokes gained off the tee, I also want to see like how many fairways guys are hitting, good drives, which is total driving plus how many greens in regulation they can turn that into, because that's going to be important. I see people throwing proximity ranges into their models this week. I haven't done that because I looked through just about every shot, like Kokrak over the 4 rounds. Approach shots are coming from everywhere. Like you're going to get some under 100, 1 to 150, 150. Like I'm not going to weigh one over the other, especially you don't know how far someone's going to be off the tee, like a driver versus a fairway would. So how did you kind of handle this course looking at your stuff this week?
Yeah, I was pretty high on driving accuracy, but I also threw in some distance stuff too. But playing out of the fairway is key. We saw Jason Kokrak take some aggressive lines and was much longer than the Kevin Nas and the Daniel Bergers that have won this event. So I would say, like you said earlier, good drives gained, and just being an overall good off the tee player is more important than if we're talking like one of like these RBCs and stuff like that, where you need like these plotters. Like you don't have to be a plotter. I feel like that's kind of the narrative this week. You got to be an accurate Kevin Na type, Kevin Kisner type guy. You don't. You can hit the ball around this place, but you have to do it. You have to do it accurately. You gotta like Kokrak did last year. He took crazy lines over trees. Just be a good driver for the golf ball and play out of the fairway is the key.
And speaking of good drives gained, I looked at last year. Total of 19 golfers finished T14 or better. So with the ties, 5 extra guys finished there. Everyone but one gained in good drives. So it's clearly key. It's shown year in and year out that good drives gain are going to be a priority. So I definitely baked that in. outside of that, I kind of looked at the DraftKings pricing towards the top of the board last year. Outside of Spieth, no one, or Spieth and Kokrak, I mean, the whole T8 and above was basically from the 7K range. Also kind of looked at, it's always weird.
The 7K range, by the way. I love the 7K range.
Yeah, the whole top to bottom. I mean, you can even talk yourself into some guys down in the sixes being 120.
6K range is.
It is.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
But I was going to say, we should touch on this, obviously, if you're going through lineups or haven't fully done your research. 120-man field, 65 and ties still make the cut. So you're getting like 56% of the field through the cut line as opposed to 42% on a normal week. So 6 of 6 is going to be a lot more popular. So shoot for the guys with upside. Like you don't want to pick a guy because you think he'll make it through the cut. Like, oh, this guy's made the cut here 5 straight years, but doesn't have a top 40. You don't want.
So
you don't
basically,
want that.
Don't put Tommy Fleetwood in your lineup because if it's not a -5 week, he will make the cut and finish T50, and that's what he did last year and lost his tour card. So, and I don't think this is the course for Tommy Fleetwood either, but we'll get there.
We will. Outside of that, what are you or how are you making of like the week after the major? Does this change your approach at all, like towards the top of the board?
Yeah,
because I think it has to
boost up Stuart Sink and everyone else. I feel like the guys who contended for sure takes a lot out of them. How is Mito going to come back after what he did on 18? How is Zalatoris and JT? I mean, JT can do whatever he wants this week. He can miss the cut. He can go crazy, but like those guys, I feel like you don't know how they're going to come out. I feel like Mito is the one I'm very interested on because I can definitely see him having a bad week. I feel like Zalatoris is pretty motivated, Dallas guy, and this is a course he could do well at. Like I can easily see him T10ing at this spot. Because again, where we don't like Zalatoris and where we do. I can see him doing well, and I feel like he's putting his head down and going crazy. So I don't know. It's going to be tough. The question mark is on Mito. I'm not going to really touch him this week. I could think he could do awesome, but I don't know. I'll take a seat on Mito this week.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I'm in the same boat. I mean, you just don't know like how and if he's been able to reset since Sunday. I mean, we're only 3-4 days removed from that tee shot, and it's like it's gonna stick with you. We've all been a part of some type of competitive team, competitive sport, whatever, and it sticks with you. Doesn't matter what I mean, he's never been in that position, and that was a big shot. It's going to stay with him. Do I think he's going to just straight up miss the cut and forget everything he's been doing? No, he had a great week.
He's got a great 2 weeks. Past 2 weeks, he's been doing good.
Oh yeah. But outside of that, my take on the whole PGA Championship thing and like taking guys in this event, 13 guys finished T8 or better, so inside the top 10 last year. 9 of them, so 9 of the 13 played in the PGA Championship the week prior. This is last year when Kokrak won. The best finish at the PGA Championship for anyone that played back-to-back weeks in the Charles Schwab was Charlie Hoffman, T17 at the PGA Championship, T3 at Charles Schwab, or the PGA, sorry. But it's guys who like Kokrak last year at the PGA the week before finished T39. Spieth was T30. Poulter T30. Hadwin T64. Grillo T38. A couple miscuts thrown in there.
Grillo.
So it's like, yeah, I know. But
hate that man.
Like you, kind of to your point, guys who didn't contend were towards the top of the leaderboard this week. And it's not like, oh, this guy played last week, crossing him out of my player pool. You can't do that because it's just not going to be viable. But either way, let's get into it. Ready to get into the 10K range?
Let's do it.
All right. So 10K plus, Scotty Scheffler makes his way back after a miscut at the PGA Championship at 11-2. Justin Thomas, the PGA champion, 11,000. Morikawa 10-7. Spieth 10-4. Zalatoris 10-1. And Victor Hovland 10,000. So obviously 6 guys who we saw last week. 2 of the guys that were involved in the playoff, and then a little bit of in between for the rest of these guys. But the way that I'm doing my builds, don't want JT, don't want Zalatoris. And that's just kind of how I've done it the week after the or any major. In past years, it's never really burned me. So it's not like they don't rate out well for me, but I'm just not going to go there.
Yeah, I saw a question in the chat asking about ownership. I think not Scotty. The guys in this range that are going to be the highest owned are Colin and Jordan, and that's very viable. Scotty, I'm seeing around 14-15% right now, which if you're going to go all in on Scotty at 14%, especially at 11-2, you're getting a little bit of a discount and a decent field. I don't hate that move at all. Like in Texas, the missed cut was a little bit worrisome though, because he doesn't really, the way he missed this cut was not like Scotty usually does. He didn't have a great off the tee week and he putted pretty poorly, which he's been doing amazing the past whatever amount of weeks. So is he regressing? Maybe, but do I think he's going to win? Like, no, but there's no reason Scotty shouldn't go crazy and have a top 10 finish. Obviously the ceiling is the ceiling, but 14%, yeah, I definitely like that. And everyone's going to go right to Colin and Jordan, obviously Jordan, and I myself am too. I like Vontae Mack no matter what in the draft movie. This is Jordan Spieth no matter what for me. I've been saying it for the past year after we saw him do last year. I'm all in on Jordan Spieth this week, no matter I would have bet him 7-1, like, and just bet Jordan Spieth only. It's Jordan Spieth no matter what for me. Jordan Spieth, DK, every lineup, like as many lineups as you can. Bet him, take him top 10, 5. I just love Jordan Spieth this week. So what's your thoughts on this range? Like who are you going to besides who's your big guys? I mean,
I think I'm skipping straight to Vic and going right back to him again. I will have some Spieth. It's literally this range is cut off to Spieth and Victor for me.
Is that because we saw Jason Kokrak have like the worst bunker performance last year and still win? Is that a reason?
Not exactly, but like
that helps.
Vic also wasn't horrible around the greens like he had been.
Yeah, he actually was good around the greens.
And it's fairly similar look, at least, like with all the bunkers around, kind of where you have to put your shots in, almost to a closer proximity here because of the smaller greens. But just looking at Zalatoris, I mean, T23 in his lone attempt at Colonial in 2020, he never was really in it last weekend at the PGA. Like, I just kept seeing him pop up on the screen and another par, another par, another par. Like, he just couldn't make the birdie putts.
Yeah.
He was hitting just about every single green in regulation, almost every single fairway. Just playing par golf. I think he had a lot of like nines where it was just all pars.
Yeah, I love Victor Hovland. I love Victor Hovland this week too. He was second in my model, and the reason I just couldn't get to him, I mean, my bets in this range are Jordan and Colin. I chose Colin over Vic, and it was a very like I'm picking hairs. It was Colin rated out slightly better for me, but I just like I was nervous because I watched Colin too, and I was like, this is the worst I've ever seen him hit his irons. He's like literally the worst I've ever seen him. He finished the week plus like 1.5 strokes with his irons, and looking at his numbers, when he has those like close to field average weeks, he's really good at bouncing back quickly. And we just saw him 2 weeks ago, or the last two events, gain 6 and 7. So I think he's in a fine spot, just a little bit of a low week at the PGA, and I expect him to come back. But back to the Victor thing, and I think the bunkering is what I said with Kokrak is only going to help him because you don't really need to be. I saw a stat that's saying like 7 of the top 10 last year lost strokes around the green. So you don't if you're missing greens here, you're not really going to be contending. And like you said, Hovland is going crazy with his irons right now, and he was just missing putts last week, and we know he's a good putter, and that should turn. But yeah, I love Victor. I obviously couldn't get to him. I made 2 core lineups. He was in the second core, but he's not going to be nearly as high owned as Jordan. So it's going to be Jordan, then Colin, then Victor.
And for Vic, the off the tee game has just been so strong, so consistent over the course of his entire PGA Tour career. It's not like he's in good form or in bad form ever. And then T41 at the PGA Championship last week, 3 rounds of shooting 70, even par, and then just a 5-over round on Saturday, which at the end of the day ended up being his score. So we talked about how many pars he made. He was just playing like drive, hit the green, 2-putt, and repeat. So it was like just parring everything, consistent, didn't get himself into trouble. You can get yourself into trouble here at Colonial. Talked about him hitting a lot of greens in regulation. T20 in the field last week, even finishing outside of the top 40. And then looking at Hovland's last 3 events, like he's making the cut. He's gaining on approach off the tee, but 33rd at Valspar, 27th at the Masters, and 41st at the PGA Championship. I just feel like this is a spot where he's due to break through. And I mean, we see him string together like top 5 after top 5. And I just feel like this could be the spot at 10K. More power to him, because I get a little bit of savings, and I've made some pretty good stars and scrubs lineups with Vic as my first guy in.
Yeah, I definitely like where your head's at. Last guy I'll touch on in this range, because we haven't, is we'll talk about the Zalatoris thing. I think at 10-1, and he's going to be the lowest owned guy in this range. 10-1, 10% own, you can get some leverage there with a ceiling that is obviously really high. He played here last year, I believe. I'm not sure what he finished. Let me look real quick. He finished 59th but he lost 6 strokes on approach. We know for a fact he's not going to lose 6 strokes on approach.
That's got to be his worst round ever, right?
Let me see if that's his worst approach round ever. That is his worst approach round ever. Yep. And so we know he's not going to do that. And he's hitting the ball amazing right now. He's his last 4 tournaments, obviously second last week, 6th at the Masters, 5th at the Match Play, and then 26 at Players. He got a 2nd at the Farmers, which is a little bit long ago, but he's just hitting the ball amazingly. He hasn't lost on ball striking since 2021 Rocket Mortgage, which was his 2nd worst approach week of his career. So I think him at 10% is a great leverage spot, but
yeah,
I think I might have to go have him a little bit 100% Jordan, or because I can go Jordan Spieth. I mean Jordan Morikawa, and
that's how all your lineups are going. Jordan Spieth.
Yeah, I'm just he's in my head. You can go Colin Jordan. You can fit it if you go, because the 6K range is crazy. But I'm gonna have to have a little bit of Zal, maybe higher than 20% of my lineup, something like that.
And you're doubling the field average at that point. So
yeah, so I haven't gotten my lineup set yet, so I just have the 2 cores built, and then I'll decide soon where I want to go. But we're talking this out now, I like Zalatoris 10%. You're gonna get some leverage there.
Yeah. So let's move on to the 9K range. Smaller range, just 6 guys in here. We got Sam Burns 9.7, Max Homa 9.4, Abe Answer 9.3, and then Sung J M, Tony Finau, and Daniel Berger at 9K. But I would play a guy named Patrick Berger. So regardless, where are you at here? Because I'm having a hard time talking myself out of some of these guys in this range. I want to play all of them.
Actually, I am not too high on this range. There's a chance I fully fade this range. The guy that I like a lot is obviously Abe Answer for obvious reasons, but I was talking to my friend Brian Kirshner recently, and Abe Answer is so popular, and he mentioned, he was like, it's really only been 1 good week. But I tweeted last week how we talked about Abe Answer on the show, and I was on him. Then I was like, nope, I'm off Abe Answer. And obviously that was a bad decision. But hindsight, firm and fast fairways, bent grass, Abe Answer makes so much sense. Now we're back to a course where driving accuracy is important. He's one of the most accurate drivers in the world. Bent grass, but he only has 1 good finish recently. And then when we go to these courses that Abe Answer is supposed to do great at, like Wells Fargo, stuff like that, and when he's chalk, he generally does not hit as chalk. So that's the only thing that scared me off of him. But the course fit makes so much sense. So it is like, if you're gonna play Advancer, it makes sense. I love it. But I'm gonna go off of him because of I don't like him as chalk. And the only time I can remember him hitting at chalk was last year's Traveler Championship when he was like the highest owned guy, made a 15-foot par putt on Friday, backdoor to top 5 or top 3, something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Is that going to happen again? That would be awesome if you're playing him. But I like him. I just don't like the chalk. And besides that, this range doesn't really move the needle for me. A little bit expensive for Homa, but the complete games there. Patrick Berger, his results recently are bad. Look at his iron play recently from one of the best iron players in the world. Something's not right. So, but yeah, this range isn't really for me. Sam Burns upside, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for answer, you touched on it, but the fast bent grass greens, last 2 seasons, number 1 in the field in putting on these types. 4 for 4 lifetime at Colonial, back-to-back T14 finishes here. Not sure if that's exactly enough at $9,300, but it's nice to see him kind of playing better here each and every year. Last week he finished T9 at the PGA Championship, 5th in fairways gained. I hope he can carry that over. I fully expect him to. Is he going to make the cut? I would like to think so, but it just depends on like what his upside is. So I'm going to have a decent amount of answer. I've talked myself into Sung Jae Im as well, based off of.
You're going to get ownership. You're going to get good ownership.
I know, based off of the whole COVID break. Like, I've had COVID personally. Obviously, everyone knows someone that has. I wouldn't imagine Sung Jae had a whole lot of trouble. It probably killed him not being able to play in a major championship.
Oh, for sure.
I took a look. He took 5 weeks off. So this is the first time he's played since the RBC Heritage. So by far the largest midseason break in action of his, what is still a young PGA Tour career. But the guy plays every single week. Oh, yeah. Like I remember his rookie year, he was like the Corn Ferry leader, got his card that way, played like 32 to 35 events, just didn't stop. Even after a win, just playing.
Literally didn't have a home. He literally did not have a home.
I tweeted when I got home earlier, I was like, I wonder if he's just too well rested because he's literally never, even worldwide, like before he was even on the Corn Ferry Tour, like the Asian Tour, Japanese, all that, he was playing every week over there as what would have been like a 17, 18-year-old. So I think 9,200 is a great price. Maybe that's based off of him withdrawing last week and coming off of the COVID. It's a fair price.
For sure, yeah.
By all means. I mean, look at the guys ahead of him. Like, you can't say he should be 9.8. But Finau is probably where I'll be heaviest this week.
Really.
Talked myself into him a lot today.
I'm not a Tony guy, really.
I always have been, but as of late, I can't tell you the last time I've like not even played Tony Finau, but like confidently played him. I feel good about where he's at, though. He's 6 of 6 here at Colonial. He's never finished outside of the top 35. Finished second in 2019 to Kevin Na.
Makes sense.
3.5 strokes off the tee he's gained in each of his past 4 tries here. Finding form as of late, because we all know that he started pretty slow, was very shaky towards the beginning of the year, but made 5 straight cuts with 2 majors in that little group. He's gained strokes off the tee in all 5 of those events. Last 3 months, he's 3rd off the tee, which that's kind of the strength of his game. It always has been since he came on tour. Another guy who just wasn't really in it last week at the PGA Championship, finished T30, but gained strokes across the board. Like, he did everything well. He just didn't do anything great, which is why he finished in 30th. But I went back and looked at his most recent win, which was the Northern Trust last year. Faster bent grass greens there, shorter course with 6 par 4s that came under 450 yards, which we're going to see a handful of this week. He's just going to put himself in such a good spot off these tees, assuming that he's hitting fairways and staying straight off the tee. But $9,100, like when I said Victor's my first guy in, I think I have one lineup with Vic, Sung Jae, Finau, answer. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure. Hang on.
That's a line. That's definitely a lineup for sure. What's your thoughts on Sam Burns? Because he might be the lowest owned guy in this range. One of them. Like, I don't know how. I mean, the price, yeah, but like, no, him and Finau should be lower, but like Burns might be low owned.
I think Burns will be pretty low, and I have no knock on him. He had back-to-back missed cuts before the PGA Championship, but like in those events, he wasn't playing horrible.
He gained 4 on approach last week, which is awesome for like to get that back, because he had that run when he was like top 20, top 5ing every week. He was just gaining endless strokes on approach, and we know the putter's there. So, but he does have those weeks where he can't drive the golf ball, and that's going to be important here.
Looking at his 2 times he's played at Colonial, 2018, 2019, missed the cut in 2018, T31 in 2019, lost strokes on approach both times, lost strokes around the green both times, played very poorly from tee to green both times, but he gained off the tee very marginally.
Maybe it doesn't suit his eye. I don't know, because it's consistently like not too straight gaining the same amount off the tee. Because he does have those weeks where he just doesn't drive the ball well.
Yeah, I have nothing against Sam Burns by any means. I told you a couple weeks ago I'm never really a Sam Burns guy, but when they're giving me him at 9.7, surrounded by all these guys who like Vic, Answer, M. Yeah. And I did confirm I do have a lineup with Hovland, Answer, M, and Finau.
Hovland
didn't even think I'd have money left, but either way.
Yeah.
That does it for me in the 9K range. I'd like to get to Berger. Don't think I can.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, but I need to see something too. I think that Honda collapse took something out of him, because he hasn't been the same since. He really hasn't.
And he might be dealing with a slight injury. That's actually
he was. Yeah, he was.
Because he withdrew from Mexico, and then
because he was injured before the Honda, and then he obviously did good there, and then he's withdrawn since then, and hasn't really. Like, this is the worst iron stretch I think of his career. Like, he's been like objectively bad with his irons, and go back to whatever amount of months you want to. He's a top 3 iron player in the world. So this is like not like him. Yeah. But besides that, I don't love this range really. I'm kind of scared of Abe Answer because of how much I like him, but I'm fading him because Abe Answer as chalk. I'll pass.
We've said it all year. You got to take stands up here. So
got to take stands. Yeah, 20%. He's gonna be like 20% owner. So
I'm in.
You're in. I'm out.
All right, on to the 8Ks. Taylor Gooch, your guy, leads this one off at 8.9, followed by Fleetwood, Webb Simpson, Mito Pereira, last 4 in Billy Horschel, Davis Riley, and then 2 former winners in Jason Kokrak and Kevin Na. Matt, the way you're sitting up, leaning forward, I feel like you just absolutely love this range.
I don't love it, but I'll touch on my favorite Taylor Gooch real quick. You know that's my guy, but I'm not gonna claim that Taylor Gooch is my guy. Taylor Gooch is Rob G's guy. Taylor Gooch is Andy Lack's guy. I'm just a Taylor Gooch fan, and I like that DraftKings never prices him correctly, and he always outperforms his price for the most part, and he helps make good money in DraftKings. But yeah, Taylor Gooch I like a lot. He didn't really model out for me too much, but his knock is driving accuracy, like I always say, but he has those weeks where he's dialed, and on a course that's not overly long and he doesn't have to go at these fairways. Like that's what my thing with. I said the same thing about Cam Smith in Houston. Everyone was on Cam Smith in Houston, but the course was so long, and when he's on these really, really long courses, even though he's gotten longer, same thing with Gooch. I feel like they tend to go too hard at their drives, and that loses their accuracy. But this course isn't overly long. We saw, since he doesn't have to dial it up, he can lean back, hit these fairways, and we saw him do it at the RSM Classic, where everyone said RSM Classic, you need to be precise off the tee. And looking at Taylor Gooch's driving accuracy numbers, they're not precise. But so when he's at a course that's not overly long, he can dial it back, hit these fairways, and then you already know what the approach game is. So yeah. I love me at 8.9K Taylor Gooch. He is third guy in some of my lineups. So I'm going to go. I'm 15% own. I'm fine with that. I think the money, the ownership's coming in on Tommy Fleetwood.
Yeah.
Never will I be on part of that.
Thanks.
So yeah.
Imagine paying $8,800 for a non-PGA Tour member.
Literally, he hates FedEx. Not Tommy Fleetwood would not
We
ever.
can't say that next year, and we tactically can't say it now, but since he's in the top 50 in the world, but we can because he doesn't have his card.
Like, he just doesn't have it. Like, how do you lose your PGA Tour card and you're like literally on Team TaylorMade? But Matt Wolff might be next, so I can't say anything.
Yeah, it's a TaylorMade curse. Maybe I got to get rid of my TaylorMades.
I'm Team TaylorMade, like at the heart, even though I got the Cobra now, but I like TaylorMade. So yeah, Taylor Gooch is my guy in this range for sure. I'm gonna go with him fairly heavily. Another guy that my second guy is I'm gonna go all the way down to Kevin Na.
Okay.
Obviously a past winner of this event, and what he's doing with his irons, and I've been saying it the last 5 weeks, and I'm gonna keep riding it because the irons have been amazing. He didn't do amazing last week, but he made the cut at 6,900, which is awesome. Helped me get in some of the cash. But what Kevin Na is doing with his irons is amazing, and he doesn't do this for very long. So I'm gonna ride the train while I can. And we know he's very precise putting. He can make 100 putts, very accurate off the tee. I'll take 8,100 Kevin Na all day, and it's a spot that he knows he can win at. And he's only got how many events left? Because I think he's gonna go over to Saudi Tour, so I think he's playing to win. So I love Kevin Na here, 8,100.
Yeah, this range is almost a dead zone for me for the most part. I'm back and forth on Mito. I had a ton of them last week, but like I said at the top of the show,
he's going to be low owned.
I think he is, but do you think he gets below 10%?
I would say yes.
Because if that's the case, I think I want to do it again.
Yeah, because he's hitting the ball amazing. Guys are gonna go to Fleetwood. Everyone loves Davis Riley, and I don't really like. I mean, the form is there, but like I don't want to pay. I feel like Davis Riley does not deserve $8,400 in this field. Like, I mean, I could eat my words. He could T3, which like he's been doing really good, but people like him. People are playing him here. I mean, Gooch is gonna garner some ownership. And then is this a Webb course? Kinda. And we saw what Webb did last week. He had that awesome round on Friday or Saturday.
Yeah.
When Webb gets a little bit of form, people love Webb. I'm not a Webb guy, but so Mito might be decently discounted ownership wise. So I'll definitely have a sprinkle of him because we know the upside is very big.
And if like that's the last thing, like he didn't lose his cool by any means. He knew that he screwed up when he hit that tee shot, and you could see it. I mean, I don't think he clearly collapsed, but it wasn't like he had some type of mental breakdown where he just couldn't get over it. But it's like, wouldn't you think after all that unfolds that you're just itching to get back on the course? I feel like that's the worst possible way because 3-wood or a 4-5 iron onto the fairway, and you don't even have to hit the green to make par. Say you miss your par putt, you're still in the playoff.
Yeah, there should have been a little bit more of a discussion with him, and we saw what he was trying to do. He hit that sawed-off low runner multiple times throughout the week. Yep. It's not like he was doing something new, but he messed up. He objectively messed up, and he admitted it. He said he knows he'll be back. And then I wasn't gonna go to him, but looking at 5%, maybe have to go. Yeah.
I think people have that narrative where they just don't think he can bounce back, but it's like, it's not like he's a 21-year-old PGA Tour rookie who just did that in his first major. Like, the guy's 27 years old. He got his card through winning 3 times on the Korn Ferry Tour last year. Hasn't played in many majors by any means. So to be in that spot to begin with, as new as he is to the public, like, yeah, if he's anywhere near 5%, I'm gonna have to get back on Mito because looking at like even you said he's strung so many good weeks together. Like looking at the last 3 months, in my model he rates out number 1. He's first off the tee in that spot, number 1 in good drives gained, third in par 4 scoring from 4 to 450, which we see a ton of this week, and then top 3 in ball striking and greens and reg, which kind of go hand in hand. But regardless, everything that I'm looking for, he brings to the table, and played his best 2 rounds in the last, well, not the last 2, but he looked good the final 2 days that we saw him, really all 4 days. So $8,600 seems like a really good price, and our projections have him in the top 5, which I don't even hate it.
No, I don't, because he's hitting the ball amazing, and he is a guy that I don't think is going to be too. It's not like he gagged away a 5-shot lead on the back 9 like consecutive. It was like, oh, here it comes.
One hole.
It was one swing, and if that putt went down on 17, that was 1 inch away from dropping. He wins. 1 inch away, 1 swing away. It wasn't like he maintained that 3-shot lead for like almost 2 whole days, or he was leading for so long. It's not like as soon as he hit we see guys hit the lead and collapse immediately. Like I don't even know who to think of, but we see it all the time. He held that lead the weekend at a major for the first time. 1 swing. It was 1 swing.
Yeah.
So 5.
Simple as that.
I'm seeing sub 6, sub 7% Mito for now. Who knows where that will come in, but I would think it gets under 10, because I think the Gooch, the Fleetwood, the Davis Riley.
I think Horschel's going to be decently popular too. I mean, you don't think he will?
No, I do. I mean, he might, but no, I'm not taking. I would not take Billy Horschel this week.
Decently popular in terms of more than I would expect at 8.5. That's all I was really.
It's a name. It's a name. There's upside, and
yeah.
But Billy Horschel's season, in my opinion, is over. That's Florida. That's few weeks after Florida. So I'll pass on that.
All right, let's get down into the 7K range. Still very strong. Going through the list of names, 120 player field. So you're gonna get some decent names here, obviously. But towards the top, I know a lot of guys that are gonna be popular are Chris Kirk, Harman, Varner. I put those 2 names together. Justin Rose, I've seen in a couple places. He was actually the first bet that I put in. But towards the top here, Matt, who do you like, if anyone?
Yeah, I'm seeing that Kirk, Woodland, Harman, Varner popular. I love Varner here a lot. I think he's hitting the ball objectively awesome recently. He's a great iron player. He kind of is an inaccurate driver of the golf ball, but we saw what he did at RBC, which is, of course, you got to be really accurate at. Again, the course is not overly long. Don't have to dial it up, hit your 3 woods, hit whatever you want, get in the fairway. And we know when Varner gets going, he's one of those other guys that's tough to stop. He is whenever he gets into contention, though, the day before he had a triple bogey or a quad. He's one of those guys that always makes a big number. And if he didn't make that number, he'd be winning. So avoid those big numbers. He's definitely viable to do that on a weekly basis. But I bet him this week at 65. So I think there's upside at 65 to 1 and at this price point. But he's popular. I'm going to be heavy Varner. So you're going to take him. He's going to be one of the higher owned guys, I would assume, in this upper 7 range. Where's your head at this upper 7 range?
So a lot of guys who I think I will kind of sprinkle in here and there. Chris Kirk comes to mind right away. Brian Harman, the course history just kind of that makes sense as being a Brian Harman course. It just does. You mentioned Woodland being popular. He's been solid over the last couple months here. He's had back-to-back top 15 finishes at Colonial. But for me, it's CT Pan. Mentioned that. Any Tringale love? No.
That's my guy.
Are you on him this week?
No, but I was on him last week, and I was like, when we went to the 6K range, and I was like, oh, it's Tringale time. And he did well last week. But I don't hate it, and I love Tringale in difficult conditions. I love Tringale when it's fairway green 2-putt. He is the king of hitting greens with 0 proximity to the hole. It's not really a recipe for success this week. You're going to have to make some birdies, and he's not really the birdie maker that I want. But, yeah, I think Tringale is a safe play. I think he'll make the cut. He's going to be 3-4%. Go for it. I definitely think Tringale has some upside. He is I'm not a fan of Tringale, but I like playing him. Like I don't like when they show his golf shots on TV, but I like having in my lineups because at his spots, I kind of like I don't know if he is really a difficult conditions guy, but I've like branded him in my head as a difficult conditions guy. Like I was so heavy on him at Torrey Pines and he almost won. So which doesn't make sense for a Cameron Tringale course, but I think I might be the Cameron Tringale whisperer, and I would say T33 this week.
Wow. That could be our side bet. I'll take the other side. I bet he doesn't finish T33.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
I'm kidding. But if he is, we're going to have to clip that because then you're going to be known as the Tringale whisperer, which I'm sure you'll be the one and only. I doubt there's anyone else out there, but that would be impressive.
Matt, yeah, he's the Tringale whisperer. Everyone knows it.
But back to CT Pan, another guy at $7,500 placed actually my biggest top 40 bet I've placed all year. It was CT Pan at plus 110 this week. Looking at where he's been in approach over the last 3 months, hasn't lost strokes in any event. Last time that he did, believe it or not, was at the Genesis, which was his best finish of 2022. So I guess that just shows that he can get it done in other ways. But looking at form, CT Pan has made 8 of the last 9 cuts on tour. Pretty strong track record here at Colonial. He's missed the cut 1 time in the last 4 years. T20 in 2018, followed it up with a T3 in 2019. Scoring extremely well on the par 4s, which we know there are a ton of on the scorecard at Colonial. So I think that should play into his favor. But the off the tee game scares me a little bit just because he isn't crazy strong, but I think he'll put himself in enough fairways, hit enough greens to be able to kind of overlook what he's able to do off the tee. But I like CT Pan a lot at $7,500. And then just above him, Justin Rose, I kind of mentioned at the top of the show. He's the first guy that I made a bet on at 65 to 1 on DraftKings. More of a value thing because everyone else had him at like 50, but second most total strokes gained at Colonial to Spieth. Obviously plays very well here. Former winner of the event since the win in 2018, T3 in 2020, T20 last year. Played well at Southern Hills, surprisingly. Was priced well. I don't even know if we touched on him last week, but T13, 8th in birdie or better. He was
that's a sneaky T13.
It was. Because I feel like I barely saw any shots of him. But par 4 scoring on the season too, 15th in the field, 5th in the shorter par 4s, which are 400 to 450. So I like the way Rose sets up this week. He's doesn't have an inflated price by any means after last week, but it's also not like he did anything crazy. I mean, he finished T13, but he did it quietly, like you said.
What's your another guy I love in this range? He's going to be on heavy. Hollywood Hoagie. You got any thoughts on him this week?
I'm torn on Hoagie.
Or he doesn't really. He's not. You're not really a Hoagie guy.
I am a Hoagie guy. I hit his each way a couple weeks before he ended up getting the win. I was on him early when he was low priced, but like it seems like he kind of fell off towards the middle, but now he slowly making his way back. Like over the last 3 months, top 20 in both ball striking and approach. He's top 10 in good drives gained. Proximity range, if you want to look at like 150 to 175,
amazing,
pretty solid. Par 4 scoring altogether, very solid. It seems like a Hoagie track. He's good enough off the tee where I think he can be able to navigate around here. What has he done?
He's missed his last 2 cuts here.
Yeah,
his best finish is 17th, but I feel like he's a different golfer than he was this year compared to any other time.
Completely different golfer in his whole career. I mean, he's never been on a type of run like this. So.
And I love him on small greens. And like you said, he lost it after a little bit after that run.
Yeah.
He had 3 straight runs of losing on approach, and that's what drives him is the irons. He gained 2 weeks ago at Byron, gained almost 8 last week at Southern Hills, which is awesome. And it's a home game for him. Fort Worth area. He went to school at TCU. That plus the narrative, I'm in on Hoagie. He's got some Texas fans. He's made a name for himself, and like we always say it, winning is contagious, and usually guys win and then they win again. So I always find myself, if someone wins, I'm like, I'm scared to bet you. You already won. Scotty Scheffler. Guys win again. Like, I'm not saying Tom Hoagie, Scotty Scheffler, but who would have thought Stuart Sink was going to win twice last season? Stuff happens.
Nobody.
Yeah. And if Tom Hoagie wins this week, no one would really be surprised. Like, yeah, he's good. He's a good golfer, and like he's figured it out. Yep. So I'm heavy Hoagie this week. I'm not saying he's going to win. I bet him at 75-1, and similar number that he won at Pebble. I know it's a much different field, but 75-1, small greens, approach heavy. He's a birdie maker. He can make a ton of birdies in a row. Hollywood Hoagie, go Frogs. I'm all in.
Another guy in this range before we get to the low sevens. Gonna have a little bit of Ryan Palmer.
Me too.
A lot of success here. Since 2011, missed the cut just 3 times. He's finished inside the top 6 4 times at Colonial, so the ceiling is there. We see Palmer pop in places like this.
Texas.
Missed the cut on the number last week at Southern Hills, 5 over, so didn't play horrible, just didn't have enough birdies at the end of the day. So $7,500 for a guy with win equity, a guy that's played well here in the past. I like Palmer quite a bit this week, especially at 5%, possibly sub 5% ownership.
Really? Damn, that is... I thought he'd be so popular.
I feel like this range is just so jammed with people that...
Yeah. I saw... because people are going to go... I saw a comment, McNeely. The form is not as good as I want it to be. To be honest, it was... And this is it's kind of like a small green type place. Got to be a good driver of the golf ball, which he really is. I think the course fit is there for sure. He's gonna be one of the heavier owned guys in this range. Made the cut last week, but he lost. I don't know how he made the cut last week. He lost 2.6 off the tee, 2.6 approach, 3.3 around the green, and gained 3 putting. But like that's not really he lost 6 strokes total. Like that's not really a recipe to make the cut. No. He finished like almost last of the guys that did make the cut, but made the cut at the Byron. But he's lost ball striking his last 2 weeks, so that's not really a Maverick McNeely that I love. But the thing is with Maverick McNeely, he's not the guy. He does it with his driver and his putter. He's the Rory McIlroy at CJ's Cup type build. That's what he does. He drives the hell out of the ball. He makes a ton of putts. He's never going to kill you with proximity and flag everything. So I don't hate it, but I'm just, especially when he's kind of highly owned, I guess I could take a pass.
Yeah, I haven't been able to get McNeely right this year, it seems like, and I'm just not willing to go back here at Colonial. The only other guy, Matt, that I'm going to have some exposure to is JJ Spawn. Obviously, Texas. Another guy who's won this year. Doesn't have a great track record here. I think he's played 1 time in like 2018, missed the cut, played pretty poorly, especially around the greens, but missed the cut last week at the PGA. Just over the last couple months, been playing really well in terms of like the type of player that I'm looking for. I also think Spawn is a different type of player than he has been over the past 4 or 5 years since he's had his tour card. But outside of that, are you getting to anyone else or right around 7K?
Stu Stink. He has a stupid, I don't know the exact stat, but he has a stupid resume of the weeks following majors. Like stupidly good. I could find it and I could tweet it out. And it's not like, and then it's like random too. It's not like he contended in this major. It's the weeks after majors he comes out. Plus we got some bonus contention last week. Has he found something recently? Kind of. He's been doing better of late after that. Like he had an amazing year and then he kind of went to nothing, but kind of picking it back up again. And does this feel like a Stuart Sink track? Maybe he's had success here before, but it's more the narrative thing. Stuart Sink after majors, I'll take the 7-1. Gonna be on him decently heavy. I don't love it, but I feel like he's a pretty safe option to make the cut, and maybe we'll get a nice Saturday or Sunday to boost the finish.
Then Travis said, Pan or Rose, and I'll let you answer that one.
Those are your guys.
I know. That's why I can't answer it. Top of your head.
CT Pan, because I don't like the idea of a chalky Justin Rose at this point of his career.
It's fair, especially what he's shown leading up to.
Yeah,
which is
so I'll go Pan because he has those pop weeks where he just random T5, but he's been doing good. So yeah, Pan.
All right, 6K range. Let's round this thing out.
The 6K range might as well be a 10K range because I love it. I love it.
So you're gonna build all 6 guys from here. Minwoo Lee.
All 6 guys from here.
I don't have a lot of Minwoo Lee. I might not even play him, but I mentioned the each way that I placed on him earlier today at the casino. The only thing that really stuck out to me was the way he's played off the tee, even when he struggles. That's enough for me to take a gamble on a guy who's won before and had success on the DP World Tour. Not going to get too much in depth with him, but towards the top, Lucas Glover was one of my main guys.
Approach king.
Exactly. Fairways just all day long, which is no surprise. Led the field in fairways gained last week at Southern Hills, where he finished T23, surprisingly. He hit 43 of 54 fairways, just under 80%. Opening round of 75 on Thursday, and then he bounced back in the final 3. Like, he shot 3 under in the final 3 days.
Yeah, I saw that. That's amazing, actually.
So hopefully he can kind of ride that out into Colonial. But I mean, I like what Glover brings to the table. He's the type of guy, like, I feel like he's just your typical guy that hits the fairways, guy that's solid on approach, and he's just going to be there. So at 6,700, I don't mind it.
He's going to win John Deere again, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know.
This is a spot that he should do well in. I like Russell Knox. I've liked him the past few weeks. He is the 13th ranked accurate driver on tour, which is awesome. It's a bonus here. He's not the longest guy, and then he's a top 50 approach player in almost every bucket that matters. And missed the cut last week, but he gained off the tee. Just had a bad putting week, and we know he's just a horrible putter. Do I expect him to putt well? No. Do I expect him to make this cut and have a possible spike iron week? Very possibly.
Yep.
He lost a stroke on approach, but every time he's lost a stroke on approach for the last over 2 years, he's bounced back with a gaining week the next week. So I like Russell Knox for that reason. He's going to be one of my higher owned 6K guys. And another guy that I went pretty high on, the man of Streel, Kevin Streelman, 6,800. I feel like, obviously, the accuracy thing, but I feel like there's more upside than a lot of guys at that price point. And he's boring. He'll find his way for a T20 very quietly. That's what I would love. Just go under the radar, casual T19. That would be sick. Just doing your thing. He can make birdies at will too. And then the final guy I saw something that says 6K flat Adam Shank. Yeah, like, it makes sense, but he's like gonna be like really popular for a 6K guy, and I feel like that can't like bode out well because everyone's gonna see that name and go right to it. 6K flat Hayden Buckley, and I know some people hate Hayden Buckley, and
not us,
not their guy, not us. Driving accuracy for days. 6K flat, give me that. I'll eat it. I don't care. Hayden Buckley 6K. I don't even have to sell you on it, but I will. Driving accuracy, that's all and then hit the fairway. Just if he could just play like half the as good he is with his driver, he can make this cut so easily, and he has upside. I know it's not really showing, but I promise, and you know it's there too. So Hayden Buckley 6K, bang that.
I know it's there. For 2 straight years, he destroyed a lot of these guys on the Korn Ferry Tour when they couldn't move up. So it's like, remember that lineup that I told you I had Vic, Answer, Im, and Finau?
Buckley.
I had to. And then you already took basically what I was going to say. I mean, minimum price. I still feel like he has upside, consistent off the tee, which
Shank?
No, Buckley. I was just touching on him. But the last guy in on that lineup, Kurt Kitayama, like, he misses one cut and everybody just writes him off and puts him down to $6,400. So I feel like he was playing so well for a little stretch there, like pushing out top 10 finishes. Why would we get off him right now? I mean, he was my last guy in that lineup, and it was strictly price based. Like, I don't love the fit here, but
yeah, I mean the driver's a little scary, but like he missed a cut where he lost 3 strokes on approach. Like when Kurt Kitayama is not crushing his irons, like he's gonna miss the cut, and we know he's an amazing iron player. So get back to your baseline and you're fine. 6,400 for sure. Maybe that run was fluky, but I think he's better than that. We saw him have a horrible start to the season, but he's getting his confidence back. Hopefully, I definitely do like that. So, Kitayama. Anyone else down here that I would give a look in my lineups? I think I might have to go back to Paul Barjon because I was on him heavy at Byron, and he paid off for us. I think he was like 6,100, and he made the cut and had a decent finish.
All you needed.
Doc Redman is a name that people are going to go to, but his driver is scary right now. Like he's notably a very accurate driver of the golf ball over his career, but it's not there right now. But I feel like it makes sense. But the fact that Hayden Buckley and Adam Schenk are priced with James Piot, who is won the US Am, I believe, and he's like done nothing on the PGA Tour because he's like still in college.
Michigan State Spartan,
yeah. And Eric Compton, the guy from like Bahamas, something like Bermuda, something like that. Like Buckley, Schenk, go for that. Like I don't get why they're priced that way with these guys.
You could handpick a lot more guys to be down at 6K than Buckley. Not that Buckley's shown much, so it makes sense, but I'm going to take advantage of it in my stars and scrubs lineups. If he misses the cut, it's not like he hasn't done that to us before.
I think Smalls has him blacklisted.
He's on her season-long team, so I don't think that'll ever be the case. But
maybe with someone else then. Maybe someone
else. She probably does because I talked him up the other week and he missed the cut. But we gotta ride until that ceiling week hits because
when it's there, you're gonna be rich.
If we're the reason that he loses his tour card for the rest of his life, I apologize in advance, but Hayden, I'm not stopping. You've shown me too much, Hayden.
He's got a nice beard too. Like, there's a lot to like in the Buckley camp.
There is. So, ready for a recap, or you want to touch on anyone else?
No, that rounds it out for me.
So we'll go top 2 guys every single range. Victor 1, Spieth 2 for me in the 10K range. Where are you at?
Top 2 in each range. I am Jordo, literally every single Jordan 1, Jordan 2, Jordan 3. I'm Jordan everything.
I will allow that, actually.
Yep. Okay.
9K range. I am Finau 1, Answer 2.
Garbage range, Answer 1 because of scared of him. Max Homa 2.
All right. 8K. Like I said earlier, I'm not going to have a whole lot here, but I'll go Mito 1 and Davis Riley 2, even though I probably won't play much Riley. So
I like Mito a lot. I think we talked ourselves into garnering some more Mito than we were gonna do.
Yeah.
I'm with you. But I'm gonna go with Taylor Gooch 1, obviously, and then Kevin Knott 2.
All right, 7K. I'm gonna take 2 guys who are at $7,500. CT Pan 1 and Ryan Palmer 2. Sorry, Palmer 73. Ryan Palmer 2.
7K, eat the chalk heavy. Tom Hoagie and Harold Varner, they should be pretty chalky in that range, I would say.
Yeah, agree. 6K range.
Buckley 1, Buckley 2, Buckley 3.
Yeah. Trying to look for a better play than Hayden Buckley in the 6K. I'm just struggling, but I'll go Glover 1.
Okay, yep.
And I will go Buckley 2 just based off of price. I don't think he should be min price. And if you want to jam in some guys in the 9K like I'm going to be doing, Buckley's where I'm going at 6K flat.
I'm going to go with the man of Streel, Kevin Streelman, and Russell knocks. But someone asked about Dylan Fratelli. Quick deep dive on him. Besides that 8th place at Texas, hasn't shown much. Kind of back and forth, off losing strokes off the tee and approach. Nothing really to love here. Course history wise, let's do a quick look. Two appearances here, 2 missed cuts. Hasn't gained on approach once, but yeah, and you Dylan Fratelli, he has the driving distance. He could take those coke rack type lines, but once that approach gets more consistent, and even when his approach is consistent, he doesn't really have great finishes. So he doesn't have those pop weeks in him as much as the other guys do. When some guys have +4 iron weeks, that leads to results. When he has +4 iron weeks, finishes top 40. So I don't love Dylan Fratelli at Texas for sure. You want to ride the Texas thing? We saw what he did at the Texas Open, finished 8th and was in contention all week. Don't hate it. I can think of worse plays.
All right, ready for this week's side bet?
Side bet.
Completely different than what we've done in past weeks. So 10K plus, I will let you pick first. We're going to go with the worst finish.
Oh my God.
The worse your guy is, you win.
The better. Okay. The worst finish.
So we're basically looking at.
So me versus just 1v1.
You almost want a missed cut. I would assume there's going to be one up here somewhere.
This is going to be like the worst finish.
Last year in the 10K range, only one guy missed the cut. The next worst was T40.
The worst finish.
Yes.
Scotty Scheffler.
All right. I'm going to take Zalatoris.
So we have
Scheffler versus Zalatoris. Whoever finishes worse. So if Scheffler beats Zalatoris, I win. It's a little bit different of a. I thought of that earlier because I was like, a week after a major, let's fade a couple guys.
I don't hate it. Another comment real quick. Someone asked if we touched on Brian Harmon. You did. You like him. I'm not a Brian Harmon guy. When Brian Harmon gets chalky, he's a guy that is really hard to predict. We saw him last year I remember the John Deere. He was like, Brian Harmon, this is the Brian Harmon Open. He's winning this event. Missed the cut. I don't like a popular Brian Harmon. I say that a lot, and it usually checks out. Like, I don't like when guys who are low key get super chalky. This is their spot because it rarely pans out. We saw Maverick McNeely at Pebble Beach. He had a 100% chance to win that week, and he missed the cut or barely made the cut. But the course fit makes sense. You can touch more on him than not. That's just my take.
Yeah, so Harmon for me, looking at the past couple months and really over the course of his career, just extremely consistent when it comes to hitting fairways. Past 3 months, he ranks 6th. Looking at some of his par 4 numbers, which I'm weighing heavily because they just flood the scorecard at Colonial. Last 3 months, he is 2nd in the field in total strokes gained on par 4s. Also 2nd in the field on par 4s from 350 to 400, which the ones that are on this card are birdies just waiting to happen. So being able to
he's a birdie maker for sure.
Getting close. I like Harmon at $7,800, even though he's going to be chalky. I think he's a great cash game play, to say the least. I don't know how heavy I'll be on him in tournaments, but there it is.
Love it.
So, all right, everyone, thank you for watching The Final Points. Obviously not a major week, but hopefully we can have the type of success that we did last week. Matt, thanks again for joining, and good luck, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Peace out.